The summer sun hung high over Manhattan, casting long shadows across the crowded streets and reflecting off towering glass buildings. At the heart of the bustling city stood Westgate Mall, a colossal shopping center known for its opulent stores, world-class dining, and exclusivity. It was the kind of place where the city's elite strolled leisurely, while tourists gawked at the sheer scale of its luxury. Barron Trump, now in his early 20s, stepped out of his black SUV parked a short distance from the mall. Clad in a simple hoodie, jeans, and sneakers, with a baseball cap pulled low over his face, he hardly looked the part of a billionaire's son. He wasn't trying to hide, he simply preferred to blend in. Today, Barron had decided to visit Westgate on his own. It wasn't a rare occurrence for him to venture out without the fanfare of security or an entourage. He enjoyed observing the world without the barriers of his family name. Barron's plans for the day were simple: explore the mall, grab a coffee, and perhaps do some people watching. It was his way of unwinding from the pressures of public life. However, the day would turn out to be anything but ordinary. As he approached the main entrance of Westgate Mall, a towering security guard stationed at the front doors eyed him suspiciously. The guard, a burly man named Frank, had worked at the mall for years and had developed a knack for sizing people up. To Frank, Barron looked like a regular young man, perhaps even a troublemaker. The hoodie and casual attire were enough for Frank to make a snap judgment. "Hey kid," Frank called out, stepping in front of Barron as he reached for the door handle. "Where do you think you're going?" Barron paused, taken aback by the abruptness of the question. "Into the mall," he replied calmly. Frank folded his arms, his stance radiating authority. "This isn't a place for loitering or causing trouble," he said. "We've had enough of kids hanging around and making a mess. Why don't you try the food court in the next block? This mall isn't for everyone." Barron raised an eyebrow, his expression neutral. "I'm not here to cause trouble," he said. Managers scrambled to ensure everything was in perfect order, while employees rushed to tidy displays and polish surfaces. Frank, however, remained blissfully unaware of the commotion. He leaned against the entrance podium, scrolling through his phone, as patrons streamed in and out of the mall. When Barron returned, now dressed in a crisp button-down shirt and tailored pants, Frank barely recognized him. This time, Barron carried himself with an air of quiet confidence, his posture straight and purposeful. Frank glanced up and frowned. "You again? Didn't I tell you?" Before he could finish, a sharply dressed man in a suit approached from inside the mall. It was Mr. Daniels, the mall's general manager. He looked flustered as he hurried toward the entrance, his eyes fixed on Barron. "Mr. Trump," Daniels exclaimed, extending his hand. "We weren't expecting you today. It's an honor to have you here." Frank froze, his eyes darting between Barron and Daniels. "Wait, what?" he muttered under his breath. Barron shook Daniels' hand, offering a polite smile. "I thought I'd drop by and see how things are running," he said. "It's been a while since my last visit." Frank's face turned pale as realization dawned. This was the owner of Westgate Mall, the very person whose name was etched in gold letters on the plaque in the main lobby. The young man he had dismissed and mocked earlier wasn't just a random shopper, he was the boss. Daniels noticed the tension and turned to Frank. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, his tone sharp. Barron raised a hand, signaling that he'd handle it. "No problem," he said, his eyes locking with Frank's. "In fact, Frank here has been very attentive. Haven't you, Frank?" Frank stammered, his confidence completely eroded. I didn't realize who you were, sir," he mumbled. You thought I didn't belong," Barron finished for him, his voice calm but firm. "You judged me based on how I looked. That's not how I expect my staff to treat anyone, regardless of who they are." Frank swallowed hard, his cheeks flushing with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Trump. It won't happen again." Barron nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I believe you," he said. "But actions speak louder than words. Let this be a lesson, Frank. Everyone who walks through these doors deserves respect, whether they're wearing a hoodie or a designer suit." Turning to Daniels, Barron added, "I'd like to review the staff training protocols. It seems there's room for improvement." "Of course, Mr. Trump," Daniels said, nodding quickly. "We'll make it a priority." Barron spent the rest of the afternoon touring the mall, meeting with store managers and chatting with employees. He made mental notes about what could be improved and offered suggestions for enhancing the customer experience. His presence left a lasting impression, not just because of his status, but because of the genuine interest he showed in the people who worked there. As for Frank, he remained at his post, humbled and introspective. The encounter with Barron had shaken him to his core, forcing him to confront his biases and rethink how he treated others. By the end of the day, he resolved to change his approach, not just at work, but in life. Word of Barron's visit spread quickly, becoming the talk of the mall. Employees shared the story of how the young owner had exposed Frank's behavior and set an example of humility and leadership. Customers, too, began to notice a shift in the atmosphere. The once intimidating entrance now felt more welcoming, and the staff seemed more attentive than ever. Barron's quiet intervention had sparked a ripple effect, transforming not just the mall, the people within it. And while he would eventually return to his busy life, his unexpected visit to Westgate Mall left a legacy that would endure long after he walked through its doors.